So, hello and welcome back. So, we will continue our discussion where we left in the previous module. We were looking at different types of electronic waste, different classification, and as I told you that you need to be careful when you look at the e-waste report from different places, different countries, different cities. You need to pay attention to how the e-waste was defined. So, as I mentioned in the previous module that many times the e-waste definition is not the same when you go from one country to another country. Within a big country, sometimes e-waste definition also changes, especially in US or in provinces of Canada. The e-waste definition may change from one province to another province, where when in US it would be states, in Canada it would be province, but since the waste management is kind of left at the state level or the provincial level in those countries, not the central government only provides some guidelines. So, that is the reason why you may see some of the differences in terms of nomenclature and all that. So, being said that, let us focus in this module. We will start our focus from the Indian context. We are sitting in India. So, we will talk about Indian context, what are the sources of e-waste in India, which states are producing more, which state is producing less, just have some discussion on that, and then we will start getting into why it is important to talk about e-waste management, which we did in the previous module, but we will continue that discussion with some more details in this video. So, if you look at the source of e-waste in India, where this e-waste is coming from in terms of the product as well as in terms of the industry. So, as you can see, we have a table as well as the pie chart here. Both table and the pie chart has the same data. It is just represented in two ways, just to make you visualize it a little better. We could have just put the table or the pie chart, but just we thought out like, okay, let us put both right now. Some people like the table, some people like the pie chart. So, if we look at the biggest contribution is coming from large household appliances. So, you see the biggest contribution is actually coming from the large household appliances, which is so, we see the biggest is coming from the large household appliance. So, this is our biggest contributor of electronic waste. And in terms of others, then the next one is the IT and communication technology. IT and communication is around 34%. So, biggest is 42% is the large household appliances, IT and communication is 34%, and then you have consumer electronics. Consumer electronics will include your laptop, mobile phones, iPad, desktops, on all those any consumer electronics that you buy. So, that is your 14%. So, still the large household appliances, which is your refrigerators, TVs, or washing machine, dishwasher, and all those big items that you see in the house, that constitutes 42%. Again, these are by weight. So, if since those are bulky item, those are heavier item, that is why you see a high percentage coming out. That does not mean that people are disposing more refrigerator as compared to disposing their cell phone. Cell phone has a less shelf life or less useful life right now as opposed to many other electronics. So, if you go by the numbers of products, your cell phones may be much higher, laptops will be much higher, but if you go by the weight of the product, we see the large household appliances contributing more. So, you need to be careful with that. So, then IT communication and technology, that ICT stuff, which is like big desktop computers and other stuff related to that, printers, scanners, Xerox machine. So, all those things are your again, those are mostly bulky item. Again, if you think about the computers that we are mostly see in the disposal stream is most with the ones with the CRT tube, that monitor with the CRT tube, and the CPU, the bulky ones. Remember, as when you were probably a little child, those of you who are a little older, you will see that in mid-90s or when we started seeing these desktop computers making way into the homes of people, we saw that the monitor will be very heavy, CPU will be heavy, one person cannot carry both, you need at least two, maybe three, depending on all the peripherals with that, speakers and keyboards and mice and all those. But so they were bulky items, they were heavier items, and they are coming up because although they were not used, many of those might be not being used since 2005, 2006, but people have since that was their first computer. So they don't want to get rid of that very soon. There's an emotional attachment, and that we see more in countries like us, where we get emotionally attached to even many products, and then we keep it at home, although we are not using it for some. And at the end of the day, when you buy these new monitors, new computers, now you think that, okay, I need to get rid of it. I don't have any room left in the house to keep it. So those are the ones which you see more showing up in the e-waste disposal stream, although the flat panel ones, the ones that we start using now, is also showing up. So that's in terms of the different composition that we see in terms of sources of e-waste. So continuing this discussion, if you look at on the next slide, if you see that stage-wise generation, how the way e-waste is being produced in different states of the country. So if you, and as you will see, it's not surprising. We see that the maximum amount of e-waste is coming from Maharashtra. So Maharashtra is contributing 20%. So 20% of the e-waste in the country among the big states which is producing e-waste is essentially coming from Maharashtra. And you can think about Mumbai is there, Mumbai, the greater Mumbai area, so New Mumbai, Thane, Kalyan, Mumbai. So it's a big area right there which produces which has a business capital of India. So a lot of electronics usage over there. People, if you look at the purchasing power per capita is also higher in that part of India. So that's, you see a bit pretty high like e-waste being produced. Then Pune is there as well. So Mumbai, Pune, those two, Pune is kind of an IT hub, second or third IT hub we can call it, after Bangalore and Hyderabad maybe. And so that we see a good amount of electronic waste coming up from there. In general, Maharashtra, a lot of industries, a lot of activities going on. So we see, and Maharashtra is a bigger state relatively compared to other states. Maharashtra is a bigger state. Of course, Uttar Pradesh could be bigger than that. But in terms of we have more purchasing power. Uttar Pradesh is not that wealthy as Maharashtra is. So those are those kind of leads to that kind of data. Now the second one that you see is coming down to Andhra Pradesh. So this is Andhra. Andhra is here in terms of the Andhra Pradesh. What we are looking at is a combination of both Andhra as well as Telangana. This data is not separate. So if once the data is separated, probably we'll see I don't know, maybe we'll see more in Andhra, less in Telangana, just because of Hyderabad. Hyderabad being the IT hub, and again in the country, we may see over there more. So Maharashtra was number one, then followed by Andhra Pradesh, followed by Tamil Nadu, and Tamil Nadu is number two, which is just slightly more than Andhra Pradesh, 13%, which is again Chennai and other places in Tamil Nadu. That's the reason. And then Andhra, followed by Uttar Pradesh and West Bengal. Uttar Pradesh, it's a populous area, population is more, and then we have Ghaziabad, Noida, and other places which has a lot of IT industries and other things going on there. So you see Uttar Pradesh showing up, and then West Bengal, Kolkata, it's kind of driving that force. We have West Bengal around 10%, then Delhi, Karnataka, and Gujarat, and these three are at 9%. Madhya Pradesh is 8%. So it's, as you can, Delhi again, NCR. I don't think NCR is included here. It's only the Delhi area. That's why you see less. If you include NCR, probably it will be much higher. If you get the Ghaziabad, Noida, Gurgaon, all those things included there, probably the numbers will be higher. Then Karnataka, Bengaluru, Mangalore as well. Both are IT places. Bangalore, of course, is the IT capital of India. Then Gujarat, Ahmedabad, Surat, Baroda, a lot of activities there, and people are wealthy. Per capita income is pretty high there. So you see it over there. Madhya Pradesh, pretty big state. So as you see, the e-waste is coming from different states, and some states are leading, some states are not that much. Depends on population, depends on affluence, and all that. So, but it has been expected that volume of e-waste, the amount of e-waste that is produced in India, will reach around 1.72 million tons. So if you think about, if you compare this, compare this with the municipal solid waste, or the solid waste that is produced in India is around 60 to 65 million tons per year. So out of that, nearly 2 million tons, so 2 out of 60, So that's a lot of number. It's almost, if you think about, it's 3 to 4%. It's, although you may think that 3-4% is how big of a deal, but e-waste, it's a very specialized area, and that contributing 3 to 4% of material going into our municipal solid, compared to municipal solid waste, which comes from solid waste in general, that comes from variety of sources like a municipality and then industrial activities and all that, but around 2 million tons, 2 million metric ton by 2020. That's a lot of e-waste that will be coming up. That also shows that there is a lot of business opportunity there, which material can be recovered, and green jobs, which can pay pretty well, because we can recover rare earth metals and precious metals from there, which we'll talk about that in the economics. And present annual growth rate of e-waste is India is around 7 to 10%. So every year more than 7 to 10%, it keeps on increasing. We are increasing the electronic waste. Top 9 states, which is presented over here, generates nearly 65 to 70%. So mostly from the top 9 out of 29-30 states we have, it's top 9 states produced around 65 to 70. The data is a little bit older because we don't have the newer data. That's another thing in the Indian context. We need to produce this data more frequently, and the government should, there should be an agency which actually does it every 2 years, like it is done in most of the developed world. They do this kind of data collection every 2 years. So in every 2 years you have the new data. So in 2017 they will do all the exercise, so the report will be available in 2018. Then again in 2019 they will do all the exercise, the report will be available in 2020. So you have the current data, because see, if we have to design a e-waste management system, if we don't have the current data, we are designing on something outdated. Say you go to a doctor and you show them your blood report and urine report which was done 4 years ago, and based on that blood report and urine report, doctor gives you medicine. How confident you will be? You will be feeling like, oh wow, this is of no use, because things may have changed. Similarly, here also things do change, and in terms of electronics, things are changing much more rapidly. So we need to have a very frequent data collection. So somehow, if any of you who are working in government agencies, who are taking this course, or working for CPCB, SPCB, please highlight this in your organization, that we need it we need this data collection more frequently. Ideally, every 2 years. That would be really great, and if we can spend money on that. And I think now in Indian context, money is not that much of a problem. It's more where the money should be spent. If we can spend a lot of money on these IPL games and all those stuff, why not spend money where it's really needed, where we need to improve the waste management infrastructure of the country. That's a need of the hour. That's a very, if you don't do it now, it will be a big problem. It's a monster waiting for more disasters to happen in future. So we need to have more frequent data collection. That's if you can highlight that wherever you talk, to whomever you talk, who can you think that can make some impact, tell them, your ministers, secretaries, whoever you kind of see, we need more frequent data collection for waste management in general, e-waste in particular. So looking at the next from the states, if we go to the city level, and is that the e-waste generated in tons, and again this is older data. Unfortunately, we don't have new data out there, and so but for more or less, if you look at in terms of like how much ratio wise, things may not have changed. More or less it will stay the same. So in terms of e-waste generated, Mumbai leads the pack, followed by Delhi, then Bangalore, and I think here Delhi does include NCR, because that's what my thinking is. Otherwise I would expect Bangalore to top Delhi if we're just talking about the Delhi city. But here then again, this is again, we have to go and look. That report didn't cover very clearly that when we say about Delhi, is Gurgaon, Ghaziabad, Noida, those are included or not included. So we have to kind of look at that part more closely. In this, I think it is included. In the previous one, when we're looking at the states, it was not. So Mumbai, it's leads the pack, followed by Delhi, Bangalore, Chennai, Kolkata, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, Pune, Surat, and Nagpur. And then you can see in terms of, so Mumbai has around 24%. That's highest one. Delhi is 21%. And you have others, then Bangalore is there, then we have Chennai, Kolkata, Ahmedabad, Hyderabad, Pune, Surat, Nagpur. Surat again has a lot of industry there as well. So this is in terms of the cities. So these cities definitely need good e-waste. So if when we look at the e-waste management system in the country, some of these cities needs priority. Actually, we need to set up some facilities there in a more I would say, if you have to prioritize, we'll go for these. We should go for these cities first. And then, if you look at Delhi, Bombay, Chennai, and other places, and there a lot of e-waste is also coming from abroad. That is again the problem we have, where the e-waste is being imported from abroad, which is again creating problem in terms of e-waste disposal and management in the country. So look at and then how there is some projection. This was a country level work done. As you can see on the side here, there were some projections done, like how much e-waste will have from different countries, done by an international agency. So taking data from there, we have tried in this slide, we have tried to present to you that how much e-waste will be produced in future in the country. So highest per capita, we'll go there. So as you can see, from 2005 until 2025, so this the data for actually for this part, because this was done in 2005. So it's basically it's more like a projection. So mostly projected data based on the growth rate. So but around 185 metric ton. So 185 metric ton of e-waste. That looks like a lot of e-waste being produced. Even if this projection is say 60%, even if we don't get to entire 100%, even to 60-70%, that itself is a lot of e-waste. 100 metric ton of e-waste, that's a lot of e-waste to manage in the country. So if you look at in terms of the per capita generation, Delhi is supposed to lead. Highest per capita e-waste generation state is Delhi, which that's based on the projections. Lowest per capita will continue to be Bihar. India will become the 5th biggest producers of e-waste. Is the e-waste right now, discarding 1.7 million ton of electronic equipment in 2014. So we are the 5th biggest producers of electronic waste, and then we also import a lot of electronic waste from other countries. So that's another problem we have, which we'll talk about later in this course. So in so I take again so why these slides are again like I keep on telling this question, why. So why these slides are important? Because see, we are trying to find out. I'm taking this course is on e-waste management. Why we need to study e-waste management? So you need to really have a very good understanding of what is the problem out there. What is the problem out there, and where is the problem? In Indian context, how much e-waste is being produced right now, where they are produced, how much we are anticipating more in future. Of course, these are all model values, forecasted values, may not be 100% correct, but in the ballpark, based on we have in terms of forecasting something, we have been doing it for so many years now. We have some perfected the method a little bit now. So we may not be that much off. So even a little bit off here and there does not really matter, because it is a big deal, which kind of we see already, and it's not only in India, worldwide also it's becoming a problem in terms of electronic waste. So if you now look at the worldwide information, so in this slide we are trying to present to you the worldwide in terms of different continents. So as you can see here on this particular slide, we have some countries like Asia and Africa and some of the islands in Oceania. They are kind of the low producers. So if you can see on this slide, so the lowest one is Africa, which we see 2.3 kg per capita per day. That is that's in terms of generation of e-waste, 2.3 kg per capita per day of e-waste generation. And that's again, here you need to be careful. It doesn't mean that one African person is disposing 2.3 kg of electronic waste every day. What does it mean is, if you take the entire e-waste produced in Africa divided by the African population, this is the value is 2.3. So there is a difference there. So, and that e-waste can come from industry sources, come from institutionals, come from individual homes. So it's a lot of e-waste which is being produced, and then you divide it by the population. So 2.3 is for Africa, 7.4 is for Asia. For Asia we see 7.4. This is the again coming from Global E-Waste Monitor from 2014, and 15.1 in Europe. Europe is pretty high, so 15.1. Australia, New Zealand around 20. This is Australia is 20, New Zealand is 19. Some of the islands here is 3.5. North America is 21.3, which includes US and Canada. Latin America, Mexico is 5.3. Latin American countries, some of the Latin American is 9.5. South America is 6.6. Africa we already looked at 2.3. So as you can see, even if what is the take home message from this particular global map with this? It's saying that some of the major producing e-waste countries are in US, Canada, most of European Union, Australia, New Zealand. So they are the countries which are producing a lot of e-waste. And many of these e-waste from these countries also travel to countries countries like India, China, Africa, and other places. Lots of countries in Africa and other places. So we need to have kind of just a global overview of where the waste is being produced and and then we'll talk about how this waste is being managed in a little while. If you go from the previous map, if you start looking at in Asia a little bit more in detail, so as you can see, per capita generation, like kg per person per day. If you think about the different countries in Asia, India is not that high. In Indian context, although if you go by the total, we produce a lot of electronic waste, but since our per capita is much less. Per capita is much less because we have our population is too high. Still, we have nearly 30 to 35% of the people are in below poverty line who are really poor. So they cannot afford any of these electronics which we are talking about. So because of those people out there and because of like a huge population, although the amount of e-waste produced in India is quite large, but when you start looking at per capita, because when you divide it by the population of the country, the number goes down because you have a bigger denominator. Numerator is high, but the denominator is much higher, and which is not if you look at in Hong Kong or in Japan or in Korea, which is South Korea. We have Taiwan and other countries like Israel, Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, Saudi Arabia. So these are many of these countries are wealthy countries. They have a lot of oil money, and then also, for example, Hong Kong, lots of activities there. China, again, if you look at China, the amount of e-waste produced in China will be very high, but since the population is high, the per capita generation shows pretty low. So, but other countries where the population is comparatively less, we see very high per capita showing up. So this is just when you look at the per capita information, you need to be careful. You need to take into account what is the population of the country, because ultimately the total amount depends on per capita multiplied by the population of that particular city or country or the state that you are looking at. So in terms of facts and figures, if we just summarize what we have been talking about so far in this in this particular module, current estimates, they predict close to 50 million tons of e-waste. So we'll have around 50 million tons of e-waste worldwide per year. So that's a lot of e-waste that is going to be produced. That's the current estimate. Globally, about 20 to 50 million of tons of e-waste are disposed each year, which accounts for around 5% of the total waste produced. According to the CAG report in India, CAG Comptroller or Auditor General, which many of you are familiar, 7.2 metric tons of industrial waste, hazardous waste, 4 lakh tons of e-waste. So we will have 4 lakh tons of e-waste, 1.5 tons of plastic, 1.7 metric tons of medical waste, and 48 metric tons of municipal solid waste is generated in the country annually. This is one of the recent reports that is there, which kind of have this data. We don't have the breakup of each city in each state that much in detail, but it is there. So if you add them up, it's almost like 60 some stuff out of that 4 lakh tons of electronic waste. And it's growing exponentially in India. There is exponential growth of e-waste in India. And the biggest concern that we have right now, that the informal sector accounts for 95% of e-waste recycling. So 95% of e-waste management is being done by the informal sector, which we'll look at some pictures and some of on the discussion board. I will put some videos out there which you can link for the YouTube videos, which I would like you to see, because they are you want to get more. There is a lot of information out there in terms of how e-waste is managed in Indian context, and also we'll have something from China and other countries there too. But 95% of e-waste is managed in the informal sector, which doesn't have much environmental control, and only 5% of the waste goes to authorized recyclers. We have several authorized recyclers, which is there on the, if you look at, I think we have towards the end of this set of slides, we do have the list, which will strictly show you. But if you go on the website of CPCB website, Ministry of Environment and Forest website, you will see the list of authorized e-waste recyclers for each state, and that but they are struggling to get electronic waste. What is happening is mostly electronic waste is going to the informal sector. So, so that's in terms of how this electronic waste is being in terms of how much e-waste is there in India, and into how much is being managed, like in what way it is managed. As you can see, mostly going to the informal sector. So that kind of brings to the closer to this particular module. So if you what we covered in this module, the one we looked at, we focused mostly on India, that how much e-waste is produced in India, where in India where the e-waste are produced, what are the major producing states. Then we also looked at major producers cities. Then we also looked at in terms of the global scenario, how e-waste, how much e-waste is produced from different countries, which country is more, which country is less. Then we talked about some of this summarizing the facts and figures, more majorly from the Indian context, and then how it compares to other waste stream. And in terms of the management of e-waste, as I said, it's mostly 95% is managed in the informal sector. So let's wrap this video right now, and then we'll continue our discussion in the next video, where we'll talk about some of the health hazard, like what are the elements of concern in this electronic waste, what are the chemicals of concern. So thank you, keep watching and keep the discussion board active.